I want to tell you guys something that might be difficult to grasp at first. I am not happy, and if things don't improve for me, I don't plan on staying here. I really hope you will support me in anything that I decide to do. If I decide to come home, I hope you won't be disappointed or love me any less. The letters just are so sad. When I read the letters, they're so sad, and it's like, you won't love me if I come home, or you're so disappointed in me, and I'm sorry I'm such a failure, and I don't know what. No, someone needed to tell him he wasn't a failure, that it was okay to come home, but no one told him that.
One of the assumptions that people oftentimes make is that all missionaries, when they return home, have some underlying secret that they're hiding, which is simply not the case. By far and large, the majority of clients that I work with who have returned home from a mission early, the significant factor, and in most cases, the unique and only factor is an issue of mental health, such as depression or anxiety.
There was an expectation within my family, you will go to college. There was never a question in any of our minds that we would go to college someday. And for a Mormon young man and a Mormon young woman looking forward to going on a mission, there is that same expectation. And therefore, for this young man or this young woman, this has been a significant aspect of their life that they just assumed was going to happen.
My dad went, my 3 older brothers went. I have a brother on a mission right now. And it's just been something that I've always really wanted to do. I think it's a great thing. Missionary work's amazing. We trust these 18, 19-year-old guys and girls to go out, and it's like, oh, here, preach the gospel and save lives or something. And so, it's a lot on, the kids' shoulders, but with 100,000 missionaries, however many there are right now, it's really good to have that. I mean, we've got such a good force that, it's not weighing on your shoulders alone.
Nauvoo is a city that the pioneers built on the way to Utah. I was there when I decided that, a mission might be something I wanted to do. And it was something I decided I wanted to do after that point. Things that I felt were undeniable there, and it sealed the deal.
One of the things that people, I think, oftentimes don't realize and underestimate is that a mission is stressful, and the nature of a mission, we think about all the exciting stuff, going out, serving the Lord, meeting new people, learning a language, learning, a new culture, or seeing new places. And so there's a lot of excitement in a mission, and that is certainly true. But there are also stresses that people have not sometimes anticipated or planned on being quite as difficult. This may be the first time that they've left home for any period of time.
Maybe I should tell you the story. My husband and I got divorced when he was 12. So he went and lived with his father. He grew up, he started going to church again and doing, all the things he was supposed to do. And they were excited because he was the first person in their family to go on a mission. So it was like real exciting. And the day he called me and said, I got my mission call, he was real excited, and I was so happy for him. I read letters that he wrote home, and the very first, even when he was in the MTC, he was having a hard time. He kept saying, this is harder than I thought.
In the MTC, shoot, that's a tough question. Do you want my honest answer?
I gave the usual kiss to my mother and hug to my dad, said goodbye. Went into the welcoming area where you're shuffled through a line, you receive different things. The identification card and pack of things. And everyone is giddy except for the people handing things to you. The things that I felt when I arrived at the MTC was definitely elation and interesting pressure in the back of your mind that you needed to get through this, and it was crunch time. It was really to figure out if you could or couldn't do this, and naturally it was a little difficult to imagine if you couldn't.
I struggled with the MTC. First day, coming out of my car, I collapsed. The ER doctor, he thought it was anxiety. They said, if you're not feeling any better, instead of sending you out to Texas on Monday, you're gonna go home. And that's the one thing that a missionary does not want to hear.
He kept saying, this is harder than I thought. He was just having a really hard time. He said emotionally, this is really hard. So the letters they wrote back, they talked him into staying, and so he did go on his mission. And it didn't last very long. He was only there for a month. And he wrote a letter saying, I just can't do it anymore. I have to come home, and please don't hate me.
My branch president called me and he said, Elder Rogers, we need to talk to you. And I was like, okay. So I go and they asked me like, how have you been sleeping? How have you been feeling? And every fiber of me wanted to say I'm fine and I'm ready to go. And then this little thought came to me and it just said, if you're not gonna be honest right now, who's to say you're gonna be honest to the investigators you're gonna teach? And so I stopped. It was out of my mouth. I was just about to say I'm fine. And I said, President, I have to go home. So the district president called my parents and said, Brother and Sister Rogers, we need you to come down to the MTC and pick up Elder Rogers.
I called home and my mother answered, and the first thing she said was, we spent money on you. You can't come home. I said, that doesn't change what's happening to me.
In my head, I was thinking, why, God, are you doing this to me? I was so frustrated. I didn't know what was going to happen when I came home. I didn't know, how it was going to work out with if I would be able to go back out or not.
I was scared. I was at peace. I was sad. I was angry, all at the same time. And there's no way to correctly convey how that feels.
They couldn't accept him not going on the mission. It was a secret when he came home because they were trying to do everything they could to make him go back. So no one could know he was home. They didn't tell anyone, not even his mother.
We went straight to the stake president's office. My parents were pale and they had no emotion on their face. My stake president ushered me into his office. The first thing he said was, did you have sex? Which I said, no, I didn't. This wasn't a question of worthiness, and I simply wasn't able to continue.
He was already depressed, and he was like a prisoner in his own home because he couldn't go anywhere because no one was to know he was home. So he was like a prisoner, and I'm sure that just made the depression worse. So he actually took pills and tried to kill himself. And I think that's when everyone realized he can't. It's okay for him to stay home. It had to get that drastic before they would finally say, okay, you can stay home.
Every worthy, able young man should serve a mission. And those two qualifiers, we have to be worthy and we have to be able. And sometimes, especially in mental health, just in general, people make assumptions that, if somebody is depressed, they should just pull themselves up by their bootstraps and get out there and get it done. And while in theory that works well, in practice, it's not as easy as that.
A lot of people are afraid to ask. like why you came home. I'm always super open about it, but people have this fear of like, you know, kids coming home early and they're like, oh, are they gonna just jump off the face of the earth? Like, what's gonna happen?
I asked my ward to keep their comments, their thoughts to themselves, albeit with good intent. They wouldn't help our family, you know, get through this very confusing time. And I feel that request went unheeded. The first day back at church, you know, a lot of people had things to say to me. You know, some people just said they were proud of me, you know, for trying. Some people said that, you know, let's buck it up and go back out. One man pulled me into a classroom and offered me an exorcism. So I laughed. I couldn't keep a straight face, but he meant it. He was sincere, and he was willing to do that to get me back out. You know, after which he told me that it was a sin that I was back. I was expected to go back, and I needed to, or, you know, progression in my life would cease. At that point, it's a moment of limbo. It's, what do you do next? And it's painful to be there. No answers, nothing.
So I don't think the guilt goes away, because 19 years after my son came home, he got in the trunk of a car and shot himself. So I don't think the guilt ever went away. I think it's important to make them feel good about themselves, and you tried as hard as you could, and that's all that matters, is that you tried.
The amount of misunderstanding, it crippled me for a very long time. It was an uphill battle, a giant uphill battle, and definitely something I realized I couldn't be there anymore. I couldn't be in my city. I couldn't see the same faces over and over again, or I wasn't gonna last much longer on this earth, honestly. And they didn't realize that. I don't think they did, and that's okay. To an early return missionary who came home for any reason, for a physical ailment, sickness, for worthiness, for a mental ailment, I would say the same thing. I would say that you're not broken, that
You know, I think the most important thing is to make sure we take away the guilt and the shame and move them forward on a positive basis, loving them all along the way.
I was kind of beating myself up, like, I'm inferior to all the people that are going. I'm inferior to my 3 brothers who went on a mission and served full time, and I'm this inferior member of the church because I didn't serve a mission. And I never got that feeling from anyone else, but it was just me putting it on myself.
to me, return with honor means that you had pure intentions. That's it. I don't see, I got a letter, you know, when I came home, and it said, "Thank you for serving a full-time mission," signed First Presidency. That was the end. That was good enough for me.
To return with honor, I think, means that we return having learned and grown. Sometimes that process with an early release missionary, the growth part is still taking place when the person comes home. You can't judge, you know, a successful mission, you know, cutting off the date when, or you know, the date or time when their plan lands back in their hometown, but rather, what is the process that they have gone through?
I feel that we as a culture, you know, preach, you know, put your shoulder to the wheel and work through things, and with God, you can do all things. With God, you can do what He needs you to do, what He wants you to do.
There's nothing served by trying to force somebody into a direction in their life that they're not comfortable going in. It should be an invitation, not a mandate.
I've met people in my situation, and I really think that, you know, my mission has been to help the people like me. I feel like that's why I'm here, is to, you know, tell people that, you know, go on a mission if you feel like that's right for you. It doesn't make you any less of a man or woman if you don't go.